Hi, South Plains. Amanda McAfee with Lubbock Area United Way here joining you again today. Today we have with us the Executive Director for CASA of the South Plains. That's Court Appointed Special Advocates, and Jaclyn Morris is their director. And we wanted to reach out and visit with Jaclyn because they work directly with foster kids and kids that are in the system where they are separated from their families for whatever reason, and are advocates for them. And I'll let Jaclyn explain a little bit more about who they are and what they do. But wanted to kind of talk to Jaclyn specifically about, how kids who are already in an at-risk population, kids who already have a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety in their lives because of being in foster care, how they're dealing with that. So Jaclyn, thanks for joining us today. Let's just start out. Tell us a little bit about CASA and what you guys do on a normal everyday basis.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, just want to let you know we appreciate the opportunity to share about our story. And so CASA of the South Plains has been in Lubbock and the surrounding areas for 26 years. We serve 6 counties. Lubbock is obviously our largest county, and we are a local 501c3 that reports to a board of directors here in Lubbock. I think there is a misconception that we report to someone else, and we don't. Our agency was founded by judges that were in the courtroom making long-term decisions about children's futures, and they point blank said, we don't have enough information to make this long-term decision for this child. And so a judge put an ad in the newspaper and said, I would like to ask for, a handful of people who would jump onto some of these really tough cases that I have and get to know these children and help tell their story in court, which I think is just phenomenal to think how that all went down. And so at the end of the day, we feel like I report to board of directors, we feel like we really report to these judges as to what is always in the best interest for a child in foster care. That is not always what the child wants, especially when they're teenagers, but it is always in what we feel is their best interest. And so as I tell you that, I think it's important that people know that we are court appointed. Our volunteers, our agency, we have a lot of training to be able to be sworn in to the courts, and we are appointed to these cases. So the situation is that you can have one volunteer that is assigned to one, small sibling group, large sibling group. Sometimes we'll put 2 CASAs on a large sibling group, but ultimately they have a relationship with this child. Our goal on a regular basis, outside of this, pandemic we're going through, is to see this child or sibling group in their home, in their placement, what they're calling home while they're in foster care. It could be a shelter, could be a residential treatment center, could be outside of Lubbock, could be a foster home. It could be at like the children's home, the boys ranch. So we see them there and we get to know them. We become the trusted adult in their life that is consistent. Our volunteers commit to 12 to 18 months with CASA. However, the average volunteer is well over that. And so that's just the minimum that we require because we don't want any more changes in this kid's life. And we want them to have that relationship, because that is where we can truly understand the needs of this child, the situation. We work with this child in every aspect of their life, their education. 94% of the children that we work with in foster care advance to the next grade level, which is huge because so many challenges that take place in foster care are related to education, moving around different schools, having trouble fitting in. The other part of that is the medical, possibly needing to be on medication, possibly coming into care over-medicated, under-medicated, needing eyeglasses. We've had children that have had major medical conditions that have been undiagnosed, and therefore they're struggling in a big way. Another thing, Amanda, that I think I want people to know is that every single child that we serve is a victim of abuse, neglect, sexual assault, sex trafficking. And so there is a lot of therapy and counseling that is needed for these children to be able to get to a mindset of growth and of, moving to the next stage of life, versus just being in survival mode, which is what they've been in. And so I think that's really important for people to know. We serve children from birth to age 18 years old. And their journey in foster care is not really anything that we can predict. Our number one goal is reunification with the family. We believe that every child deserves to be with their family or their family of origin, someone that they know and love and can take care of them. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. And so we work really closely with other people in this child's life that could potentially provide a permanent solution outside of foster care. So our goal is permanency, and it is to break the cycle of foster care. And I want to tell you, this is something that's very meaningful to me. My older kids are adopted. And when I think about what CASA did in their life and ultimately in my family's life, it's breaking a generation of situations going on. So if we can remove a situation and have a child experience a new type of childhood and grow into adulthood, that's where we can see changes over changes. And so really, that's a big thing of what we do. And our advocates typically stay in the lives of these children as they become adults. Just have relationships with them, because that is the main thing that really produces results in the end. And so as I say that, there's about 1,500 kids in our area that are confirmed victims of abuse and neglect that are in foster care. So that is a huge deal. It ranks very high per capita, maybe third or fourth in the state this year, per capita in Texas. So Lubbock has a big issue. We're in desperate needs of foster homes. People who will do foster to foster and possibly foster to adopt. So that's a little bit about CASA. Our main thing is to know these children, where they are, know their history, and make sure that whatever they're going into, they're not telling their story alone. And we're making sure that their story really is the best story, the best information for the judge. So we ultimately feel like we report to the judges. So does that help? Kind of big picture? I know you know that.
Yeah, absolutely, Jaclyn. And thanks for sharing that, because I think a lot of people miss exactly who you guys are and what role specifically that you guys fill in kids' lives. That it's somebody who's there to be a voice and be an advocate.
Yes.
Ideally the entire time that they're in foster care, but at least for a good chunk of time.
So I will say we are there through the life of the case. So even if it's a volunteer and they have life happen, our staff picks that up and will be on that. So they'll never go without a CASA once they have a CASA.
Right. So they'll always have somebody, but at least without volunteer for a period of time. So
yes,
y'all do extensive training with your volunteers and helping them understand and do. And I know y'all have had some, you have some phone calls, interaction with kids that happens on a regular basis anyway, especially, if a kid gets placed outside of Lubbock or something like that happens on a regular basis.
It does.
But this with the stay-at-home orders is a whole different thing. It's volunteers haven't necessarily been able to go in person and check on kids. So how have you been working with your volunteers to ensure that your children that you guys are caring for are continuing to receive services, or continuing to have that person and that advocate in their lives?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, our needs for children are number one, and then you put this on top of it. So it's health and the safety of everything that's going on here, and then our volunteers and our team as well. So I'll tell you, we've always been pretty good with different platforms and tools to be able to see kids via Zoom, via FaceTime, via whatever platform that a child has available. The court system even has a platform where, a secure platform to where if a child is placed somewhere, they can still attend their own court hearing, even if they're in an RTC in San Antonio. So we're pretty good on technology, but what we knew that we needed to do was we needed to really double and triple up on our efforts to make sure that not only were we being able to see these children, but we were spending time with them and hearing them out and making sure that, that the situation really is what it appears, and having that relationship with the child, because some of our advocates have been on some of these cases for years. And we just also graduated a brand new class of volunteers who got brand new kids coming into care. So, it was really about, okay, we had, people in the very beginning before the actual, kind of stay-at-home order went into place. They were doing drive-bys and seeing kids on the porches and just letting them kind of see, hey, this is who I am, this is who you are, even though we're social distancing. But then when it really came to say we need to, stay at home and do that, we've just been very, very diligent about the number of contacts per week that we're making, that we are really comfortable seeing everything in the surrounding that we can see. And we're still responsible for working with all of the individuals in their life, including counselors, teachers. We want to make sure that these kids understand what the heck is going on right now? Why is all of these changes happening? But that they have the necessary tools and resources to be able to learn at home. Do they have, an adult that they can ask questions? Do they have access to the internet? Do they have a computer of some sort? So being that go-to person to make sure that what do we need to do? How can we help the foster family? How can we help the child? What can we do for the teachers to ensure that this information is getting here? And then of course, the medical and therapy. And a lot of that is, I think, a few things may have been postponed, but for the most part, we've just kept trucking right along. And we even attend court via Zoom. So we've had adoptions since this has happened. And we have been able to, really still full force advocate for these children and have a voice, which has been awesome. The judges, they were so wonderful to be, they had to learn this process as well to look, what would it look like to have all parties involved on a Zoom case for a court hearing? And so a lot of a newness around that, a lot of learning. And if you can also imagine, we have over 300 volunteers of all ages, and that most of our advocates work full time, but we do have some that work part time, some that are students, some that are retired, but it has been really fun working with our advocates and teaching them about the technology that's available and how we can still do what we need to do and advocate. But we miss our kids. We're ready to see our kids. We obviously are, the health and safety of the whole situation is first, but we really miss seeing our kids and being able to just put our eyes on them, and hug them and just love on them, because at the end of the day, that's really what our organization is about. And so.
That's fantastic. I know I've seen it. I encourage folks to go and look at y'all's social media, because I have seen some fantastic posts about advocates who are trying to connect in different ways and do different things to keep in touch with their kids. I know I saw somebody on a camera with a giant unicorn at one point in time.
Yes.
And, because can you imagine you're connecting with kids of all ages? It's one thing to be doing a Zoom session with a 16-year-old. It's a completely different thing to be doing a Zoom session with a 3-year-old. I mean, it's some of that's experience in our lives.
Yes.
Jaclyn, we're wrapping up National Child Abuse Prevention Month.
Yeah.
And here locally, that's our Go Blue Lubbock campaign. And when we think about you guys are dealing with kids that we didn't prevent child abuse. We didn't prevent something bad happening in their lives. And now there's a lot more anxiety and a lot more stress happening in their world. So when we think about kids who are in the foster care system and already in a vulnerable place, You mentioned some of the things, education and making sure that they have access to be able to learn at home, but what are some of the concerns that you guys have that we're seeing among this population?
So, yes, there are a lot of children that, like you mentioned, they have come into care due to neglect, abuse, and all of those things. And as everything is changing right now and so many moving parts to what's happening, we definitely are concerned. We are concerned for families who are large and where there have been children that have, combined. For instance, a mother had 3 or 4 children of her own, and then she is working with her sister's children as well now and has brought them into her home. And so we want to be able to advocate for any needs that the family has to ensure that they have the resources and that they have an outlet when they need it. There's so many organizations in this community that have resources, and they're online resources. They're through phone calls, counseling, just someone you can pick up the phone and say, hey, this is going on. And so we want to be the connector for that. Our main goal is to be the voice for these children, but I'll tell you, we will be the voice for these families all day long to ensure that they're okay and that the kids are okay. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. And, something that you mentioned, a lot of volunteers or a lot of potential volunteers may come and say, Jaclyn, I don't know how y'all do what you do. And I say, sometimes we do some tough stuff. But what I always remind people is that the part of the journey that they get to be a part of is sometimes the most crucial time, because the abuse and neglect has already happened. They're at a new stage in life. And to me, I feel like our volunteers can come in, and some people have said, I feel like I want to be like their guardian angel, and I want to make sure that on our time together that nothing like that could happen to them again, and it's true. On our watch, we're going to make sure that nothing is happening to these children, especially anything to what was happening. But we see kids that have been through it all. And so we are very blessed to be on these cases. Sometimes we get on the toughest cases, depending on what the judge feels is best for the case and the child. So there's a lot of things that I think, statistic wise, we'll see whenever we get kind of past this and kids are able to start seeing people face to face. And it's kind of scary to think about, okay, what could have happened when they couldn't talk to anybody? But that's why we are doubling up our efforts to make sure that we're seeing them, that we're talking to them, we're doing everything we can, even if it's virtual. But one more thing, Amanda, that I want people to know is that, COVID-19 is not stopping CASA. It is not slowing us down. It is not doing anything like that. We have more and more people attending CASA 101 information sessions via Zoom. And they just, at their own time, their own leisure, can set into a call and learn more. And through that, they will decide, hey, is this something I could do now? Is this something I could do later? Or could I just be a connector and help spread the word to more people that I know? Could they nominate a CASA? Nominate someone that we could call? The thing is, we know that more and more kids are going to be coming into care. Therefore, we're going to need more and more volunteers than we have ever needed. So it's easy to attend CASA 101 virtually. It is easy to do an interview, to talk one-on-one with someone, to say, here's what I'm thinking. Here are my concerns, about me personally doing this. And we work through that with each person. The training right now is all online. And so it looks very different than it ever has, but we're still swearing people in to see children. And so we want people to know we're here, we need them, and there are children waiting to have a CASA. And so more and more kids will be waiting, but we just want to encourage you, attend a CASA 101, call us. If you call the office, you'll get my number, and I would love to speak with anybody about an opportunity. I have my own CASA story and how I was introduced to it, and it's just an amazing organization that can change everything for a child. So
That's fantastic, Jaclyn. We're so glad to hear that y'all are still out there, still working with kids and getting new volunteers. So we will put the links to y'all's website and y'all's phone number and when we post, so that if people are interested in volunteering, y'all have that access real easy to get to. Jaclyn, thanks so much for your time today. Thanks so much for all you guys are doing. We just appreciate your hard work and your ability to adapt and change and continue helping kids. All right,
Thank you. And we're very blessed to be part of the United Way. So thank you.
Thanks, Jaclyn. All right, South Plains, we will be coming to you soon with more updates from our community partners. Until then, stay home and stay safe.